Well, it's great to be back in Southwest Florida. We got our other panelists are coming up. Beautiful weather. A week ago today, up in North Florida, we were setting records for snowfall. The previous record in the state of Florida's history was 4 inches in Milton, Florida, however many decades ago. A week ago, Milton, Florida got 10 inches of snow. And so by that point in January, Milton, Florida had more snow than Anchorage, Alaska, if you can believe it. And so we were kind of getting out of that. You always know you can come down here to Southwest Florida, and this is the place to be. I'm joined here. We got a great roundtable. Dave Kerner runs our highway safety, motor vehicle, highway patrol for the state of Florida. We also have Homeland Security Investigation Special Agent in Charge, John Condon, is going to talk about what we're doing to combat illegal immigration. We are now, for 4 years, I didn't have anyone that really wanted to work with us at the White House. Now we do, so I think we're going to be able to do a lot of great stuff. Alvin Vincent is also here, U.S. Immigration's Custom Enforcement and Removal Operations. We also have Nikki Jones, who's an angel wife. She's in the restroom, but she's going to come and talk about what needs to be done. So if you look over the last, 6 years, but certainly the last 4, when the Biden administration enacted open border policies, there was no state that was stronger in fighting back against that than the state of Florida. We were the first state to send personnel to the southern border to assist Texas, trying to interdict people coming over. We, of course, have had maritime assets protecting the Florida Keys and the east coast of Florida, and have interdicted thousands of illegal aliens that we then turn over to the Coast Guard, who sends back to their home country. We even helped transport aliens to Martha's Vineyard, and that was something that got a lot of headlines. So. And then we've done things. We've done mandatory e-verify. We have requirement that people give if they're not here legally when they go to the emergency room. We keep track of that. That's caused the cost to go down because people are focusing on this. So we've done a lot. But the reality is I think you had largely catch and release under Biden. We would have times where people get out of prison in Florida and they wouldn't come pick them up. They used to when Trump was president the first time. You'd be there, they'd come pick them, and then they'd be gone. So we had a lot of problems. I think some of the rank and file. I mean, these guys speak for themselves, but I know there's been frustration because they were handcuffed, right? They were not allowed. The Border Patrol, ICE, they were not allowed to fully do the job that I think that they probably signed up for. Certainly that the American people went for. But now we have an opportunity to make a huge difference and finally bring the illegal immigration crisis to an end once and for all, not just in the state of Florida, but all around the country. And there's not a single Republican that I know in the state of Florida who's in elected office, certainly in the legislature, statewide, in the Congress, who has not campaigned vigorously against the Biden border crisis, open borders, and talked about the need to deal with illegal immigration. They all do that, right? And the issue is when you do that, is it just kind of hollow rhetoric just to get you into office, and once you get there, you kind of just forget about it and move on, or even sabotage efforts to have enforcement, which we've seen Republicans do in the past, and unfortunately we saw that last night in the Florida legislature? Or are you intent on delivering on the promises you made to the people that sent you to office in the first place? And it's been my guide that when I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I don't say it idly. I follow up and we get the job done. So I've been talking about this issue for a long time. When I ran in 22, we got reelected by a historic margin. This was a strong issue. No governor had been stronger. And then President Trump ran very unapologetically on enacting the largest deportation program in the history of the United States. He got elected on that promise, and others, but that was one of the major ones. And now's the time to bring that mandate to fruition. Here's the thing, though. And the president's come out like gangbusters. He wants to do this. This was not hollow rhetoric for him. He's putting his money where his mouth is with his early executive actions. And I think it's been really invigorating to see, especially after 4 years of Biden. But here's the thing. If you look at the numbers that they'll put out, ICE will put out every day, 800 arrests, 700, 1,000, 1,100. Extrapolate that over the course of a year. Say it's 1,000 a day, 365,000 times 4. That's like 1.5 million. And I do think they're going to ramp up. I do think it's going to be higher than that. Don't get me wrong. It's only been, a week, 10 days. But here's the thing. Biden let in 10 million by himself, right? So they will have, I think, more capacity. I think you will see those numbers climb, and I know the president wants to do that. But you are not going to fulfill the mandate of having the largest deportation operation in history unless local and state governments are in the fight helping our federal partners get the job done. So I was in a situation where after the election, we obviously got issues, apart from the federal government that we just deal with here, but there are issues where we have a partner on things. And it's not just this. I mean, President Trump's going to be more helpful on Everglades restoration. We do this Gulf snapper management. that we got from the feds. Everyone's so happy that I've expanded Gulf red snapper season, the largest we've ever had. Atlantic red snapper is like 2 days, so I want management of that. I want to be able to do. And there's a whole bunch of other things, but the number one issue in the election, I would say, was the issue of border and immigration. It's been a huge issue here in the state of Florida. And I could have just said, go get them, Mr. President. We're rooting you on. We're watching, and we're not going to do anything to help. We're watching because we're not a sanctuary state, and we don't allow sanctuary cities, but we don't necessarily have to help in this. Federal government can't make a state help with this. They can't make a city help with this. We're doing it because we think it's important. And so I knew, and I knew that I could direct the state agencies to be partners and to get it done. And so that's what we're doing. I mean, just yesterday we had Florida Department of Law Enforcement working with local police in South Florida. They busted 20 Chinese illegal aliens, in some big van. What are they doing in our country? We had a big bust with Dave Kerner's guys, the Highway Patrol in Tallahassee with Homeland Security, aliens from Latin America. So we're in the fight, and we want to be in the fight. But not every level of government necessarily wants to be in that fight. And even though we don't allow sanctuary, there's a lot of cities, a lot of counties, they just don't want to deal with the issue of illegal immigration at all. They want other people to deal with it, and they want to focus on it. But here's the thing. This issue permeates everything we do. It affects the schools. It affects healthcare. It affects safety on the roads. It affects crime. It affects so many different things that we need all hands on deck. So I said, okay, what do we need to do to make sure Florida is leading the way yet again and being a strong partner with the new administration? And here's the thing. If Florida does it, other states will follow. If Florida doesn't lead or we're weak, then that gives the other states license to be weak. So I wanted to deal with this with the leaders of the legislature. They did not want to deal with it. They didn't want to do a special session. So I had to call it. And I said that this is urgent. We're going to come in a week after the president takes office. I knew they were going to do all these executive orders. And I knew a lot of those executive orders were going to invite state and local participation in their efforts. And I also understood how that can be a force multiplier, because you're talking about most of the interactions are with state and local officials. And think about it. I mean, you'll hear Nikki's story, but her husband was killed by an alien who had been stopped multiple times for major traffic, and they just kept releasing. Our highway patrol, if they stop you and you're here illegally, they're going to get you to ICE, and we're going to send you home. And that should be true with our police departments, our sheriff's departments. And just think, if that had been done over the years, you would have people like Nikki that would not have had a husband lost. You've had others that have lost kids. So we have a huge obligation to do this. So we called a special session. The leaders of the legislature said that it was premature, that there was no urgency to it. They accused me of doing a political stunt, and they said this could wait many months. I've been waiting 4 years to do something. We don't have time to wait. We've got to do it. And so I said, we're going to do it. They got really negative feedback from their voters, and so they kind of felt like they had to do something. But they didn't want to just, part of this is, some of it's petty, like they don't want the governor to get a win or this or that. Look, this is not about me. It's not about them. It's about you. It's about this state. And if they're going to come up with strong proposals, they can have 100% of the credit. I'm not looking for credit. I'm looking to get the job done. And so they came in this week and they unveiled a bill that was horrendous in so many different ways. It was one of the weakest immigration bills you could do for interior enforcement, and actually kneecapped some of the things we're doing right now. So it was, there's a couple things that I supported it, but it's like a half a step forward, 5 steps back. That was what they wanted to do. They got huge negative feedback from the voters. They kind of made some cosmetic changes, but what they have done, what they're trying to do to you, and I think this is insulting to you, they named this weak bill the Trump Act. They're trying to leverage Donald Trump's popularity and his reputation for being strong on immigration, and he has been strong out of the gate, no question, and they're trying to have that paper over the weakness, the weak sauce that they're trying to jam down your throats here in Florida. I think that's offensive. Honestly, what did Donald Trump deserve? What did he deserve to have an amnesty bill attached to his name? He's not advocating this, but that's effectively what it is, and I'll go through the reasons why. But it basically turns Florida into a sanctuary state. It will neuter interior enforcement. They're spending a lot of money on housing illegal aliens. I don't want to house them. I want to deport them. That's what we need to do. That's the mission. So they came out with this. It is not going to get the job done. And again, I want them to come up with strong proposals, and they can have 100% of the credit. But we are not going to be weak, and we are not going to wilt when it comes to this issue. We've been waiting to finally secure this issue for years and years, long even before Biden. Decades this has been going on. Now we have the momentum. The president has put out the roadmap with strong executive orders. We have to be strong, and we've got to get the job done. And if Florida leads on this and we do something strong, other states are going to follow. Those numbers are going to go up. You're going to have more aliens removed, illegal aliens, every day. You're going to see the red states in particular do it. It's going to be a massive force multiplier. And if you don't, If you have a weak sauce or you don't do anything, then that's given license to these other states. Say, hey, Florida's not going to do anything strong. Well, why would we do it? Trust me, people look to the state for leadership on these. So I think it's really important that we're strong. I think it's really important that we honor the promises of the voters who sent us into our offices. There's not a single Republican that ran for office saying they were going to be weak on this issue. Because if they did, they would have lost. You all know that. So now's the time to do it. And here's the problem I have with what they've done. I put out a series of proposals. Look, and I say it again, if you can do better than what I did, do it. I don't need any pride of authorship. I don't need any fanfare. I just want to get the job done. But what we propose, there's a number of things. One, we have to end catch and release with illegal aliens that get arrested. So what happens is, maybe someone is driving while intoxicated, they get arrested, they get booked, and the judge just releases them. We want to create a presumption that you don't get bail if you're here illegally. So we have time to then contact immigration authorities and we can begin the process of getting you the hell out of our country. Very important to end catch and release. The legislature's bill doesn't end catch and release, doesn't do anything to deal with that. So we've seen this time and time again. You get a DUI, you're here illegally, you go in front of a judge, they send you home on bail. You shouldn't be on bail in those situations or other situations, which sometimes are even much more serious. So we need to end catch and release. The legislature's bill that they passed does not do that. I want to stop catch and release, and I want to move to detain and deport. That is the policy that's going to work for the people of Florida. The other thing that you have is so the one thing that they're saying is, and if you watch the debate that the legislature had, because the liberals were like, well, you're going to be deporting people, and then basically the proponents are like, oh, no, we're not going to do that. Just if someone's in the jail, then we'll refer them to ICE. Well, obviously, that's like the lowest hanging fruit. Now, it is true we have some jails that aren't participating in some of the federal programs, but I think that's easily resolved. They come to us for funding. I think we can do that. I'm totally fine with that being in here. We would do the same thing. But it's interesting. In our proposal, what we say is if an illegal alien is in jail, one of our jails, and there's an immigration detainer, ICE obviously can come get them and you're going to cooperate. But sometimes ICE doesn't do it. Maybe they're just shorthanded, whatever. We're authorizing the locals or the state to transfer the alien to ICE. The legislature's bill doesn't do that. They just get released if ICE isn't there when the time comes. And look, sometimes ICE in the past, because they're getting directive from on high to not do it, but now they want to do it, right? But they have limited resources, so it may not be where they are always going to be there. Well, I think you take the alien and you bring them there so that they're not released back into our communities. Legislature didn't do that. They didn't authorize the transport to be able to happen. The other thing is this. I said it was a half step forward, 5 steps back. Here's the reason why. We're doing operations now, and it's been much better, obviously, under the Trump administration. I mentioned the Chinese illegals. We did the bus yesterday in Tallahassee with Highway Patrol. I've got Highway Patrol, FDLE. I've got all these agencies that are working together to be able to bring the rule of law back and hold these folks accountable. This bill eliminates all the current operations that we are doing against illegal immigration. It eliminates what FHP is doing. It eliminates FDLE. I have boats by the Keys and by the east coast of Florida, southeast coast, to interdict vessels. Biden had some Coast Guard. Trump has surged more. But you'll have like 30 Haitians coming on a boat, and if you stop them before they get to the shore, they just get turned around by Coast Guard and go back. So we've done that. So all those things would be revoked, and we wouldn't be in the game on any of that stuff. So that's taking steps backwards. And then the worst part about it is they actually strip the governor of Immigration Enforcement Authority entirely, and they transfer it to the Department of Agriculture. Now, why the hell would you do that? People ask, why would you do it? And part of it is, look, agriculture has been a magnet industry for illegal alien labor. It's cheap labor. They do all that stuff. That doesn't mean every farm in Florida is doing it, both family farms, big farms. And I'm not suggesting that everyone is, but we know it does happen. Let's just be honest. And so there is a conflict there as the ag commissioner, because you're going to have constituencies that are not necessarily going to want to have immigration enforcement. So it's a dumb idea just for that purpose. But it's also the case of they don't have the resources. So you're literally putting in this bill that none of our agencies can even discuss immigration with these federal authorities unless the ag commissioner approves that. How is that? What possible justification for that is? And people ask me, and they're like, well, and look, Florida does a good job in crisis management and emergency response. You guys have seen that over the years. We're proud of it. That emanates from my office and these others, all these agencies. We are a well-oiled machine. So if you really wanted to be successful, you would just, beef up authorities for us to keep doing our jobs, right? They're taking that away. Some of it may be petty politics they're trying to play just because they want to pull one over on me. But I think it's more than that. The reason you put it in ag, the reason you bar state agencies from communicating with ICE and Border Patrol is because you don't want to see more deportations. It's because you don't want to see more interior enforcement. That's why they're doing it. It's a feature for them, not a bug that it's not going to work. And that gives the game away. If you were serious about interior enforcement, if you were serious about increasing the number of illegal aliens that get deported out of the state of Florida to help the Trump administration set this record that the president's pledged to, the last thing you would do is send it to the Ag Commissioner and tie the hands of the very state agencies that have worked successfully on this issue for the last many years. So that gives the game away. And it basically means if we in the state, like if we had evidence of illegal labor or gangs, we'd have to go to the Ag Commissioner, and if the Ag Commissioner can veto us following through on it. So it is really bad and effectively makes us a de facto sanctuary state because all of the enforcement is going to be contingent on this one Ag Commissioner and whether or not he is going to green light any of these operations. So it makes no sense whatsoever if you actually want to do a good job. It makes perfect sense if your goal is to sabotage enforcement. So you would have, because of that provision, you would have fewer people deported under their bill than you would if we just kept doing things the way we're doing now with the beefed up state involvement. And we're going to announce an MOU where we're going to do even more down here in Southwest Florida. So that is a head scratcher. Nobody can justify who voted for this bill why you would want to take it away from the governor and give it to the Ag Commissioner. And look, we had a Democrat Ag Commissioner a couple years ago. Current Ag Commissioner has voted for in-state tuition for illegal aliens, driver's licenses for illegal aliens. Me as governor, I've been strong on illegal immigration. You don't got to worry about me. I'm not going to squish on this issue. I'm going to be there. I'm going to get the job done. So just from a practical perspective, it makes no sense. From an organizational perspective, it makes no sense. So that's really, really problematic. Now, another thing they do, President Trump came in, he issued a national emergency for immigration and at the border. We have a state of emergency similar in the state of Florida for illegal immigration. A lot of the things we're doing with Highway Patrol, FDLE, Fish and Wildlife, the maritime operations, flows from that state of emergency. The legislature's bill, which they're trying to, they think you're dumb by calling it the Trump Act. They think you're going to think it's strong. It actually eliminates our state of emergency. So all those operations would cease as a result of that. These operations are working. These operations are doing well. So again, that gives the game away. It'd be one thing if you didn't like the state of emergency, but Trump just did one. And that's unlocking his potential at the federal level. So they do that. Gangs, transnational gangs. We propose very strong ability to hold these gangs accountable. Legislature initially had nothing in there at all about gangs. They have put some in there, not as strong as us, but they have put some stuff in after the outcry, but you got to go after the gangs. Now, you go after the problem at the source with the cartels, and the Trump administration's doing that. They have presidents designated the cartels to be foreign terrorist organizations. I think that's 100% appropriate, and I think they should be treated that way. And so that will make a difference. They're also doing the border fortification. So repelling people who are trying to come, the border crossings are down dramatically just since January 20th, building the wall, all that is very, very important. But here's the thing. You can do all of those things perfectly right. It doesn't 100% solve the problem because you still have the enticements to come here illegally. And what's the main enticement is illegal employment. People can come from these foreign countries. They can make more money here in the United States than they do back home. And then a lot of times they'll send remittances back to their home country. Now, we do have E-Verify for 25 employees or more. That's been helpful. The media said that our economy was going to crash, and it hasn't, but it has been helpful at combating illegal hiring. Under 25, the legislature didn't police, and obviously, I would say if there is the fraud, that's going to probably be there. In my proposals, we want to strengthen E-Verify to remove the enticement to come illegally. The legislature actually strips E-Verify enforcement from the governor. They weaken it, and they give it to the Commissioner of Agriculture. So if you have illegal labor, you're going to have to go through Ag Commissioner to do it. That should not be the case. And current Ag Commissioner Wilton Simpson, he's opposed E-Verify when he was in the legislature. That's just a fact. And many of these other guys running this bill have opposed E-Verify very significantly, largely because of the businesses. So it weakens E-Verify, and I think it pretty much eliminates, it de facto eliminates E-Verify because they're taking it out of the governor's executive offices and putting it in to the Ag Commissioner. But the employment is an enticement. The ability to send remittances is also an enticement. So we're proposing having an E-Verify for remittances. So you want to send a remittance? Okay, you've got to show the wire provider that you have that you're here lawfully. And if you do that, send away. If you don't, we're not going to let you send remittances. That would dry up so much of the enticement almost immediately. You would see really positive differences from that. They didn't include anything about remittances, and I think the reason is they don't want to remove the enticements. That's not something that they're trying to do. I think they want to continue to entice people to come here and work under the table. I think that's a mistake. I think that causes, here's the thing, some business that wants cheap labor, there's cost imposed on all of us from that. Schools, hospitals, traffic accidents, maybe criminal activity, all these different things. So it's basically a massive subsidy to some of these businesses when you're bringing in people illegally like that. So remove the enticements. We need to do it. The legislature totally dropped the ball on that. Making sure we're holding illegal aliens accountable who try to vote in the state of Florida. We have prosecuted. I did election integrity with the legislature. We created an Office of Election Crimes in the Attorney General's office or in the State Department. We've prosecuted people that have voted illegally in Florida, and we're proud that we've been aggressive on that. The media hates it. They're like, oh, you can't do it. No, you can. You don't have a right to vote if you're not a U.S. citizen in this state, in this country, and that's the way it should be. But the problem is if you're here illegally and you vote, and then I find that out, your vote has been counted. There's no way 3 months after the election I can unring the bell. I don't know who you voted for. So the crime that was committed still influences the election. They have not made it a separate crime in Florida to illegally register to vote. You're not allowed to register if you're, quote, unqualified, but when you sign up, you don't have to swear under penalty of perjury that you're a U.S. citizen. We want to make sure everyone has to swear that they're a U.S. citizen, and then if they swear and they register, and it's not even just illegals. If you're a legal foreigner here, you're not eligible to vote. If you're a foreigner, then we can hold you accountable before the election. We can hold you accountable for falsely registering. And so those penalties we have are strong. The legislature did not see fit to do the strong penalties for illegally registering to vote, and they had an opportunity to do that. But I think that that's something that's really, really important. Now, probably the linchpin of this, if it's going to be successful, and if the president's mandate is going to be fulfilled, is you have to require state and local law enforcement to cooperate affirmatively with federal immigration authorities. Not just not be a sanctuary. I mean, we know California is a sanctuary state. They're going to try to sabotage everything the Trump administration does. Chicago, sanctuary city. They're going to try to sabotage. We're not a sanctuary state. Well, at least, as long as this bill doesn't ever pass, we won't be. If it passes, we're a de facto sanctuary state. But we're not. We don't have sanctuary cities, or they're not allowed. But there's a difference between, okay, you can't actively sabotage, but can you just sit on your hands and do nothing? That's what most law enforcement agencies throughout the country do. They don't do very much. The legislature said, well, if you're in a jail, then we'll get involved and help out. Yeah, that's like the bare minimum. So we're imposing an obligation on these police departments, sheriff's departments, to participate in these enforcement efforts. So, for example, Highway Patrol, I've already ordered this, so we don't need the legislation, but we're going to include it in there. They pull somebody over for drunk driving. They're here illegally. They have a duty to pursue the immigration infraction too, and to alert ICE, and to do whatever needs to be done to be able to hold accountable. When you do that, you are going to prevent. I mean, if an illegal's driving drunk and gets pulled over and doesn't hit anybody, the chance that they will never drive drunk again is not high. That's not unique to illegals, right? It's like when people get in that type of behavior, sometimes it's only a matter of time before they ever end up killing someone. So if you get it at the start and remove, man, you're great. So we are going to have that. We're also, like, if a local police officer is responding to like an apartment complex, domestic violence, if then he sees in one of the other apartment buildings gang members, illegal gang members, he's got to say, you know what, they're here illegally. You don't have to wait for them to commit a serious felony. I want to get them out of here before they're committing the felonies. I don't want to have victims in the state of Florida. And so you got to do that. So by doing that, you get all of them in the game. They're going to have to maximally participate in all the federal opportunities to be able to make an impact on this very, very serious issue of illegal immigration. If you don't have that, you're not going to get the numbers where they need to be. You're not going to really turn the tide dramatically. You will have improvement for sure compared to Biden, no question. But if you want to do something historic, you got to get the state and locals involved in this. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we want to do. The legislature is not doing that. They are not imposing that obligation. They say in the jails, that's the only thing. Other than that, basically, there's going to be no interior enforcement of illegal immigration by any state or local officials. That's not getting the job done, folks, if we give that free rein for illegals to do this. So that's really important. And then you got to have enforcement mechanisms. So, like a sheriff, if they have a duty imposed on them by law, they're elected countywide. And most of our sheriffs want to be involved in this. We've got some that may not be, but if the duty's imposed on them, they got to do it. And then if they don't, governor has removal, suspension authority, can do whatever. We also need that enforcement authority on the municipal officials, like police chiefs, to ensure that they're living up to the duties that the law is imposing on them. And if you do that, you are going to see really, really positive. Now, the legislature has nothing in there on any of that. It's just not something that they wanted to do. So their bill takes us back. It neuters our ability to protect you from illegal immigration. It neuters our state agencies. It is a de facto sanctuary / amnesty bill. And And that's totally contrary to what all these guys ran on in 22, when I was on the ticket, in 24, during the President Trump election. This issue of going after the cartels, securing the border, and having the largest deportation effort in all of American history, those were central to this mandate. All these guys were supportive of that. They all told you as voters that they would stand for policies that deliver that. None of them said they would vote to make Florida a de facto sanctuary state. Did any of them tell you that they wanted to take power away from the governor on illegal immigration and give it to the ag commissioner when they were campaigning? No, not one of them said that. It's absurd. The mere thought of them campaigning on that would be absurd. You'd scratch your heads and say, what the hell is wrong with you? So no. So now's the time to get it right. What they have done this week has been so weak, so pathetic. And here's the thing. I could easily just say, you know what, let the feds handle it. You know, we'll do our own thing. We don't need to worry about it. But that's not the right thing to do. And the right thing to do is not always the easiest thing to do. Sometimes you got to tussle, you know, with the legislature. Sometimes you got to go out and make the case. But it's the right thing to do. And I think this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. If we're not going to go in full bore to get the job done, I don't know that we'll ever have a better opportunity to really make a difference ever again. So I want to thank, since we're in Southwest Florida, I want to thank Senator Jonathan Martin. You know, he opposed the Swamp Act last night, this amnesty bill, this weak bill. He saw through it. He stood strong. You know, the leaders in the chambers, they pressured these guys. Oh, we're going to take away your committee assignments. We're going to deep six your projects. You're going to do so. They retaliate. And that's why so many of these members get concerned. You know, the members showed up to Tallahassee on Monday. They didn't know what the hell was going to happen. They weren't given any of the leadership didn't give them the bill. They had and the leadership did not allow any bills to be filed until Sunday night. So all of our stuff, the members filed Sunday night, nothing money. And then they get this dumped on them and basically told, hey, we're naming it after Trump, so don't worry about it. Obama named Obamacare the Affordable Care Act. How affordable was that? Biden named his spending boondoggle the Inflation Reduction Act. How much did it reduce inflation? And so they're playing this political game where if they name a weak bill after a strong president, that somehow you guys are just going to say, oh yeah, you know, it must be amazing. I think some of you may have been born on a Tuesday, but it wasn't last Tuesday. You know what these guys are up to, and you know. So contact your local representatives. Let them know we've got to get this right. We can't have weak sauce. We got to be strong. We can't descend Florida into a de facto sanctuary by neutering the ability of the state agencies to respond and to be strong on this. And we do need our local agencies to all be a part of the fight. So we're going to keep pushing. Obviously, this is something that's really significant. I want to bring in some of the other folks that are going to say some things about some of the opportunities. We are actually going to sign a memorandum of understanding between DHS and Highway Patrol here in Southwest Florida, where Highway Patrol. So you know, the Trump administration wants to, and there's different provisions of law that allows them to do this. You know, to empower state and local officials with the authority to exercise immigration power. That's huge because it's a force multiplier. So we're going to have that memorandum of understanding where our state officials here down in Southwest Florida with Highway Patrol are going to be vested in the authorities of an immigration officer. That's going to make it so much more effective to fight illegal immigration. So Dave Kerner, Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles in Florida.